Yes, so welcome back. So that is a we basically have that in CSV file that is looking this way. So you can see from here that we have like the full name, the special status, the weekend stay, the total stay, the loyalty program status, the last name, the first name, the hotel type or the hotel name. Now there's also like the customer like message to the customer. Then we also have like a reservation status. We have like the booking date. We have the country name, cancellation, lead-in time, arrival, weekend, mail status, like market segmentation, distribution channel, reserved room type, and also the deposit status. Now, these are all, like columns that are going to appear in the table titled Business Intelligence, like completed. Now, it looks pretty much like different from this table, which is like the original table, and also from this one when I added other like columns to it from that table. So now we're just gonna close this one, and we're also gonna close this one, and we have this one. That is the CSV file converted. And once again, it's only one table, but it's got a whole bunch of columns, as you can see from here, right? So now we close this one. The next part of the video is going to focus on how you can load this one into SQL and how we can continue using like SQL Workbench and like connect to the database and also like use the query editor to kind of go through and define an ICP or an ideal customer profile based on a couple of factors. Now, before we go into that, I'd like to explain to you the criteria we can use. I mean, if you work in business intelligence, uh, there are a couple of criteria you can use to define an ideal customer profile. For instance, if you have data on the number of time they slept, design loyalty program for them, who should you target at the end, how much they're spending, when they actually spend, and all those stuff. So these are factors you can use to decide which customer is really profitable and worth keeping, or which customer is worth contacting or like targeting when it comes to advertisement. Do you want to target those that spend more? Basically, you can see the bronze like status customers do not spend more, and that is because their total stays are less. But there are others like the gold members, for instance Paul Williams here. There's also like original. This means that they spend more because they slept more, or they use more into our like hotels, or they might have used our services more in our hotel. So, which means they may be worth keeping. So, would you want to target them with advertisement, or rather target those that use the hotel less frequently? Now, there are a couple of ways of designing an ICP, right? People use several factors like geolocations, like several factors, but there are three main ones that are pretty much like interesting to know about. Number one is something called like k-means, and k-means is pretty much easy to understand, but there are also others like dbScan, and there's also RFM or recency, frequency, and also the monetary value. We're going to use only the RFM or the recency, frequency, and also monetary value of each client here to determine whether they fit into our ICP or not, or whether they really qualify to use our loyalty program statuses. So here we want to know whether we should target like bronze, whether we should target like gold or silver or platinum members, like all based on that. It's a decision you have to make. But we're going to use RFM or recency, which in this case is based on the date, right? And we're also going to use the frequency. That is, for instance, the total stay, because the total stay is a combination of special status weekend stay and weekday stays that comes to that, and we're gonna turn that one into the frequency or the number of times they use our like hotels or our services or they kind of book from our hotels. And now the final one will be monetary value. And the monetary value would also come from the total stays. Why? Because we just gonna calculate the number of nights they slept and multiply that by the hotel rate. That is, whether they slept in our city hotel or in our resort hotel. And we'll be able to determine their value and whether we should pursue them or we should not. So that is what the whole exercise is about, is to define an ICP based on recency, frequency, and also the monetary value. There are other means you can determine that. As I said, you can use dbScan. That is, for instance, like the density-based spatial clustering of applications with noise. It's also one way of doing that. There's also k-means clustering. That is also like an option you could use. But they're all like SQL means of determining or coming to that conclusion. So that is what we're gonna do. So in the next video, I'm gonna like open my SQL Workbench, and we're gonna look at how we can load the video. Sorry, how we can load the data or the CSV file, how we can create a table in SQL, and how we can really start like querying or using the editor to kind of find out which ICP is good based on frequency, monetary value, and also the recency of the purchases or the use of our services. All right, so welcome back. Now let's continue. We're rather going to open SQL or like Workbench, SQL Workbench. Remember, there are a couple of like editors you can use. There's Postgre, there are a couple of them like Scalia and the rest. We're just gonna focus more on SQL, MySQL Workbench. So that's what we're gonna use to kind of write our queries into our data set. Now I already have like SQL installed and like this is like the interface of it. It kind of looks basically like that. And that is that. So we're gonna load up our CSV file here and we're gonna edit it. Remember, I've done this before or I've done it already, so I'll just kind of take you through the whole process so that you'd also be able to do that. Now, after you've installed like my SQL Workbench and everything, the first thing you need to do is like look at the connections. I've already connected to a couple of like databases, so you can see we've got a couple of them. For instance, I have been using like Maven's Movies to kind of like polish up my skills. Just try to um, keep myself going. To keep in tune with new changes that come up with SQL, like to learn and everything. So just to improve. Now, I already have this one here. So I've connected to the hotel database, and that's what we're going to use. So you just need to create a new connection from here. Just click on this one, and you like go on ahead, name it, how you want, whichever way you want it. Then you just connect it. When you're done, you just connect, and that's all. But like, I'm just gonna cancel it because I've already created like a platform for that, or I've already connected to a database. And this is the database, and that's what I call the hotel database. I'm going to show you how I connected to the like the CSV file. Now it's pretty simple. After you've kind of converted your Excel file into CSV, there are a couple of things you need to know. We've also created a database or connected to uh, like a database that is called like hotel data. Now, to be able to accept or for SQL to really take the CSV file, that is like to be able to accept your import of the CSV file, you need to create a table in SQL. And that table is like it's just basically like a container that would receive the CSV file, right? That is like using Workbench. Now, to do that, you need to make sure that the table or the column heads, like here, correspond to the names you are creating in the table. And that is the table in SQL here. And to do that, you just have to go to um, the connection you have made or the database connection you have here. You just kind of right click, then you go to the table data import wizard. But there is one more thing before you can do that. First of all, this is the table you've created on SQL. How did we create this? As I said, once again, it is just the names or that the column has so that they could match up when it's loaded into SQL. But you need to also define the data type, right? So in SQL, just go on ahead and create a table. Just type create the table. You could, let me just kind of show you briefly. So I would just open like a new like query tab and show you. So you could go here and just type create like table, right? Just like you can see from here. So create the table, and what is the name of the table? Just put in like whatever name you want. Let's say hotel data, you know, stuff like that. You could also use like that to separate it, or an underscore to separate it. It's all up to you. Now you want to say that I kind of did that already here, so I will just show you that from my desktop here. So this is how I created it. I considered the name, right, to be a string. Normally, a string is like letters and other stuff like that. So I took it that the names are going to be string. Then the special status male, that is going to be 0 or like 1, and because of that, it should be an integer, right? So that's the integer I have here. Then weekend stays, I also know it's numbers or it could be counted, so I put integer. The same way total stays. Now loyalty program status has, for instance, bronze, silver, gold, premium, and the rest. So just that I didn't want to like have any confusion or anything, I just put that it's a variable character. Now, if you're not sure, right, you could go on ahead and put variable character for all of it, and you won't get it wrong if you did that. So that is what you should notice. It is easy to do it that way when you're not sure. For instance, cancellation, I made it Boolean, but it is wrong. I just kind of put it here on purpose for you. It is wrong. I just need to go on ahead and put that because fine. Normally Boolean is like either yes or no or stuff like that, but it could be in a different form. So when you're not sure, just put this one there. And when you bring it to SQL, just from here, you're gonna see that you just have to put like 200 at the end just to indicate like the number of characters or the total number of like characters that could be put here. So that's what you do, and that's how you create the table. And after that, you just close it, you know, and you have this whole set. I'm just gonna close this one because I'll just show you as an example. I don't need to save it, so I'll just leave it like that. So this is how you create the table. And after you create the table, once again, it'll be time to import this CSV file, which seem to have the same column names, or the column heads seem to have the same titles or the same names, so that you can connect them to kind of fill up this or these columns here, or the table you've created that seem to have the same column name as this one here. Good. So now we're gonna go on ahead. I'll show you how you can do this one. You just go here, you go onto the like the schemas like tab. Now you go onto the hotel data, then you go to the table data import wizard. And with that, when you click it, this will show. Now you can browse and select the CSV file. So you can see from here that this is a CSV file, right? You could just see the X and the A with like a comma here just indicate that it's a CSV file. So you just select it, you open it, you just go to next, next, next. Then you check. You get to a dialog box, right? That can ask you to check the names you have here, that is here, against the names you have there, right? Let me just put it in bold. These names, right? The column heads. So you just cross-check to ensure that the data set that falls under them, right, are like correct and they correspond and there is no problem with it. And that is all. So that's how you load the data into SQL. I mean, how you load the CSV file into SQL. Now, to do that, we're going to, so like from here, it is done. I just like kind of open another query editor and we're just going to look at how to really answer the questions using RFM or how to use frequency, recency, and also um, like monetary value to define a new customer base. All right. So go ahead and do that. If you're missing anything, just like kind of, I mean, put a comment in the chat and I'll respond to that. Or just watch the video as much as possible, just to know how to load your data to SQL before we even come to the main concerns of the day. And this is what we're gonna do, or this is the whole exercise we're gonna do in determining like the the frequency, that is the RFM here, that is like the frequency, the recency, kind of enlarging it, like that's like defining the ICP using the frequency, recency, and also the monetary value. And we're gonna do that in the next uh, few minutes. Yep, so go on ahead and download the dataset and kind of load it onto SQL, and let's dive right into action. So remember, what we want to do is to configure a new customer base that is an ideal customer profile or persona in this case. And we want to get this based on the recency, the frequency, and also the monetary value of their purchases, and to know whether also their loyalty program status, that is bronze, which shows that they are kind of slacking members. They are not, I mean, using our services a lot. So should we target them with marketing advertisement in order to kind of get them to use our services more, or do we want to focus more on those customers that are valuable? Well, this data can tell us that. So that's what we're hoping to do. So we're just trying to do this one and configure a new customer base and something like this, right? This is what we're expecting. So let me just set this one as the default schema and execute this one for you to see the final results we're expecting. So we execute this one, and yes, this is the kind of table we want to have and export it to Excel, and we can use that to target our advertisement. After that, we're just gonna get their email addresses, right? Once we have that, we're just gonna concatenate, or we're just gonna do XLOOKUP to get their email addresses, and we can target them with marketing information. So the task here today is to kind of complete this same thing. I'll take you through how I did that and how I came by this table as a form of a configured ICP for targeting in advertisement. Okay, so let's just go on and create a new query tab and go through this one. So you go to file, then a new query tab. So just here. Now you've loaded the data and everything. We're just going to familiarize ourselves with a couple of them. So let's just look at the tables here, right? So this is the table we're dealing with, the hotel data. So we just go on to here, we click on the table, and we can know the columns, right? The column heads in the data set or in the table. So we can see the full name, special status, and all those stuff. You can also just kind of click on the columns here and it'll appear down here, the schema, and you can see all what you have in the characters or also the format they come in. This is an integer, this is like a variable characters and everything. Now we're going to use once again RFM, that's recency, frequency, and monetary value. So just go ahead and test how good good your data set looks like, or your data set seem to be. And yeah, so we just want to select maybe the full name. Okay, let's first of all select the whole data set, and that means you just use a asterisk sign. Then it is from the hotel data set, right? So we just go to the hotel data and just close it and we execute to see. So we now see all the tables, in I mean, all the columns in our table. So that's it. Let's go on ahead. You could go on ahead and play, select more to see, let's say select the full name, right? And remember it's SQL, so this is not, it's not case sensitive. Let's say the full name, the loyalty program status, loyalty program status. As I said, SQL is not case sensitive, but it is spelling sensitive. You need to spell everything correctly uh, to match it up. Okay, then this from the hotel data, right? All right, so just and execute that. Yeah, so we have Ernest Barnes once again. He's a bronze member and all the stuff. So go on ahead and just check a few stuff before we delve into the main tasks here. So we're just gonna comment out this, and that is to start with the RFM, that is recency, recency, frequency, and also monetary value, right? And we're gonna start with the recency. Sorry, so recency. Okay. So once again, I just want to comment it out. So just put two dashes there and everything as well. So let's go on. Now we're gonna use the date, right? So we're just gonna select, but we would add the full name to it so that we're able to know the total like days based on like the last time they purchased anything from us. Remember, we're using 2015 data set and it's 2025, so we might have like a very vast number of days, right? Over 3,000 number of days, right, since they use our services. But of course, if you have a current data set that's like in 2025 or just like last month, November or something like that, you'll be able to do the same thing. So don't consider really the year of the data set. Just consider, um, like the way it's done. It's more important. So this is 2020, 2015 data set against 2025. So we're looking at a period of over 10 years. Right. So let's go on. We're going to select once again, let's say full name, right? The full name and from the data set, right? So full name from hotel data, all right? There it is. But remember, we want the date. So we need to know the difference in date, right? The last date they used any of our hotels against the current date today, which is 2025. So to do that, we need to know the differences so that we can count the days. So we have to just go to this side, but we need to put a comma here because we are still writing. So we put date and we're looking at differences, right? Oh, we can see right from here, it gives us that. So the date and the date, this will be against the current date, right? So current and the current in SQL, you just could write cur and you add date to it. And we asking the SQL to kind of reference that of the date from the computer here. So we just need to put in a bracket for it to, or like a parenthesis for it to do that. Now we just want this one and we want it from the booking um, column, right? So booking date, and we want to count this one as we want to count this one as what the frequency, the recency, right? And we want to execute. There is going to be a problem, but I want you to take notice of it. Okay, so we can go on ahead and execute, right? Okay, so we execute, and look, the recency table is created because it's an alias. So an alias is more like trying to create a new column or a new calculated column in SQL. It's just the same as trying to create a new column in like Excel or something like that, or in like a Power Pivot. Okay, so that is it here. We executed it, but there are a couple of like mistakes here or like problems here, like null, 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 null. It gave us nothing. Why? This is because the current date on my computer as against the format in SQL and also based on the CSV file seem to be different. The formats are different, and you could see the date format here is different. So that seemed to be a problem. We need to reconcile it. And to reconcile it, we need to have a bit of a conversion of the maximum date count to like, which is from string then to date format. Then after that, we have to also indicate um, the format of the new date we want, right? So let's go on ahead and do that. That it should be like this here. Where's recency? So this is recency. This is the correct thing we're looking at, right? So let's go on ahead and write a similar code that reflects that. So this is correct, but the result is null. So we need to correct it to the right format. So we go on ahead. Well, maybe we could just copy it, right? We could just copy it here and yeah, paste it and correct it from here. So now we want the difference in date. That's from the current date, but we're looking at the maximum, right? And in the maximum, how do we want it to be? Currently, it is a kind of a string, right? So we need the string to be converted to to date, right? So this is how it should be, and that is from the booking table, right? It is from the booking date table, and we want to have it uh, in a different format. So we want to have it in this format. That is the day, the month, and the year. And to do that, we want it to be converted to an exact match of this one. So it's going to be like the day now, comma the month. There's going to be another mistake, but I've just left it this way for you to see. Date, the exact match of the month, and also the exact match of the year, right? And we just can close it like that. And we want to select that as frequency. And we also want it to be grouped in like from the data set, and we want it grouped by okay, let's close this one, but we want it grouped by, we will correct that, let's group by the full name as we've already have it here. So by full name, right? And we can close it. Now there are a couple of mistakes we need to correct. As I mentioned initially, we have this formula inside, I mean, this formula, that's the current date inside the date difference. Then we also have the maximum being inside the same date differences, right? So we need to, for instance, count this one. It's inside. This one is also inside, and that is booking date is also inside. So we have three, which means that we need to close this like a bracket or this parenthesis. So we have to put one, two, and three over there, right? Because we have a current date inside like the date difference and also the maximum date also inside there and that. So it's kind of creating table inside the table or like a result inside a result and stuff like that. So we need to close it that way. Now we need to also check the whole syntax. Now, when you come to this side, you see that after the maximum, we put in that because this one is falling inside the maximum, and the booking date is also falling inside the the current date or the string conversion to date. So we need to bring that one here as well, right? And now there is one more thing here. That's why I said I put a comma. You need to note this one carefully. When you really want to convert a date format, this format here will be read in SQL as just like a number. For instance, today's date is like 04/12/2025. It's going to read it as 04/12, then 2025, which is just going to be a normal number like this. So it's going to be a normal number like this. Let me just put this one here, comment this one out. So it's going to be a number like this: 04 12 2025, right? So if you want to really pronounce this number, it's going to look like this, right? And we just kind of clear. So it's going to look like 4,122, then like 25. That's how it's going to like be interpreted because we put a comma. But when we put a slash or like a forward slash here, like this, then it's going to change it to the um, to the date format. All right. So let me just clear this one. Let's try to execute this one to see what we get. Right. Let me just select it so that now when we execute, there was also still an error. Why was there the error? Now to kind of check this as a pro, right? You just can go to any of the error, right, and look at it and read about it. Now, it says incorrect parameter count in the call to native function str to date, right? Now, that is talking about this part here. And look, we did not bring a comma here, right? So that could have been the reason. Now we brought a comma, right? Let's execute again, right? Just like this part, let's execute. And you see, we have it in full. So, which means that Ernest Barnes, the last time he kind of used our services, which like almost over 10 years ago, that is that like over 3,809 days ago. So if we want to target him with marketing just to kind of get him coming back to use any of our hotels, then it'll be fine. It'll be so. It'll be a very good marketing decision. But remember, he's a bronze member. So if you want to go on to target bronze members, or you want to target like, well, maybe you want to convert bronze members to like, silver members or gold members who kind of use our services frequently. So it's all up to you. But that is for the frequency. Next, we're gonna look at the that is that for the reasons. Next, we're gonna look at the frequency. That is the number of times each person used our services and how we're gonna determine that using SQL. And after that, we're also gonna find the monetary value. Then we put all of them together to form one table. All right. So see you in the next video for the frequency.